So we're just starting to prepare our top here, and this is a 3mm spruce we're going to be using. So we just have it held in place here because we're going to try and do as much marking out and as much cutting as we can before we attach it on. So as we said, because we've got our large chambers here, we're going to be having F-holes, and we'll be cutting those F-holes into the spruce, so it'll be a lot easier and safer to do it off the body and then attaching it before, rather than doing it when it's in place. So we're just going to attach our two pieces with some tape here and draw around the shape, and then we're going to do all our laying out for our controls and F-holes, etc. And that's so we can make sure it's all accurate, and as I said, so we can do it off the body before attaching it. So now we've got our two spruce pieces together, and we've just laid the body out on top. We're going to draw around the body first of all, then we're going to take a sheet of paper and we're going to copy all our cavities that we have on top here, and we can lay that out down on the spruce, and we'll know exactly where it's safe to put our F-holes and our controls, etc., to make sure they fit into these cavities and don't overlap with our solid center section. So we'll just draw around the body now, and hopefully you can make that out on a camera there. You can see we've got exactly what our body shape is going to be. So we can use the center seam of the spruce as our center line, and we've also got our center line on the guitar itself, so when we take our tracing of the top here, it should be easy to transfer it over then to our spruce top. So we've just used some brown paper here, and you can see we've drawn on where exactly our cavities are, so we can then take this off and trace it onto our spruce, so we'll know exactly where we can locate our F-holes and our controls, etc. So we'll just take this off now and transfer it to our spruce top. So we've got our spruce all marked out now, so you can see where our cavities are, and it's a perfect match for our body here. So what we'll do now is we're going to make some more marks for different lines and stuff, and we'll work out exactly where it's safe to put our F-holes and where our controls are going to be as well. So we'll grab one of our templates and mark out the controls, and we may have to move them slightly to accommodate the size of this cavity, and then the same, we'll try and angle our F-hole so that it doesn't interfere with them, and then match that angle on the far side for the other F-hole. So more marking out, we'll get cracking with that now. So we've just used our template here, and we've marked out the position of our four controls, and they're fine, they're all going to sit in the cavity, and they're not too close to any of the edges or anything like that. So the next thing we're going to do is we'll arrange where our F-hole is going to go and make sure that it can sit safely in that cavity and the one on the far side. So we'll just mark that out now. So we're just laying out our F-holes here, and you can see we've marked several different positions here, and then using our center line we've then mirrored that on the other side for the two positions for our F-holes. So we're just going to mark those in now. So making sure we're on all our measurements and hitting all our marks, we can mark out then exactly where the F-hole is going to be. And then, as we said, we can then mirror this and make sure we're on all our marks again, making sure all our lines are correct. And again, we can then mark out the F-hole. So just to bring in a little bit closer, there's our first F-hole sitting amongst our controls, and there's our second F-hole, and we've got them nicely mirrored. They're both in the same position and both at the same angle as well. So now that we've got that marked out and we know exactly it all sits in our cavity and that, we can start to think about preparing our top for attaching it. So we've got the F-holes marked in now, and we're almost getting ready to cut them out. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take it over to the bandsaw and remove a lot of this excess material, just to make things a little bit easier to work with, and then we'll move on from there. Okay, so we're just having to think about cutting out our F-holes here, and because the corners are so sharp and so tight here on these, we're just a little bit worried about the grain breaking off and stuff like that. So what we're going to do is, we've just marked out on the back where the F-hole is going to be, and we're just going to glue on a piece of veneer just to strengthen that area, kind of, just so hopefully we don't get any odd chips or anything like that. So the veneer and the glue combined should help to hold that in. So that's what we're going to do next. We'll glue this veneer in place. So just a very quick idea of how we're going to be veneering this. You'll see this in more detail when we're putting the Bubinga veneer on the top of the body itself. But basically we just put glue on both pieces, and we leave it for a little while until the glue goes kind of tacky. Then we just hold our piece in place, and we use some greaseproof paper, and then we just iron the whole thing in to get it to stick. Then we're going to be putting this large block on top and clamping the whole thing down and leaving it overnight. So the first thing we're going to do is we'll put glue on everything and then leave that for a while to go tacky. So we're just going to spread this around, and as this glue is water based, it's going to make this veneer try and curl up. So when we press it down, that's why we'll be ironing it, and that just try and get everything flat again. And we're doing this whole thing on top of some greaseproof paper as well. Okay, so our glue's gone nice and tacky now, kind of. And as we said, because this is water based, it's started to curl our veneer a little bit. So you can just kind of squish this around now and try and get it to take a bite and hold on in the area we'd like. Then we're just taking our greaseproof paper and our iron and just flattening the whole thing down. So that's not too bad, that seems to be holding okay. And we'll just do the same on the far side here. So that's our two veneers held down. So we're just going to come back with a backing board here, and then we're going to start clamping the whole thing down. So that's our two veneers glued in place. So we'll leave them overnight and come back to them tomorrow. So we've taken the clamps off this veneering that we've done. So it's gone well. We've a lot of glue squeezed out we're going to have to get rid of. And we're also going to score around the areas where the top is going to be in contact with the body, just to make sure that there isn't a little lip or anything like that when we try and glue this down. So what we're going to do is we'll sand off all the excess we don't need, all this glue, and cut away the pieces of veneer we don't need, and then we'll get ready to start cutting out our F-holes. So we're cutting out our F-holes here, and just like we've done with most of the operations before we use the router, we're drilling out a lot of the material just to make things easier for the router. And because this is spruce and it's so kind of easily chipped, we're going to drill out some of these holes, then come back with a chisel and try and take away as much material as possible, so that the router is literally just shaving the edges to give us a smooth edge and isn't actually digging in and hogging away any material. So as I said, we'll just crack on now and we'll drill some holes and just come back down with a chisel and take away more material. So now, as we said, we're just taking our chisels here, and we're going to try and take away as much of the material as possible before we have to start using the router. So that's our first F-hole routed out. As you can see, we use this teeny tiny little router bit with a bearing on it to follow the template around. So a small bit of sanding to get rid of some fluffy bits and stuff like that. But that's essentially that F-hole taken care of. And we'll come back and drill our holes as well to get ready. So we're just going to go ahead now and we'll get our second piece in place and we'll route this out. So that's our F-holes completely routed out now. And as we said, we've trimmed away some of the veneer on the back to allow this piece to sit properly flush in with the body. And as we said, also we're going to be veneering the top as well, so that'll be another layer as well to keep it nice and strong and keep it structurally sound. So with all that done, we can just continue on now.